2016 ended with some more sad news. Another celebrity death. The passing of Carrie Fisher, known to most for the iconic role of playing Princess Leia in the original Star Wars trilogy, then in The Force Awakens last year, reprising the role. Um, I wished I mean, she was 60. She lived a very full life. She had a lot of problems that she was open about. Drug addiction. She struggled with depression. She was an advocate for mental illness at a time when that wasn't as common as it is now. She had what was it? Postcards from the Edge was basically semi autobiographical narrative about her trouble as an actress with substance abuse problems. You know, so she she passed away. She had some either a heart attack or cardiac arrest. Was probably in a coma or life support. And then after Christmas, she dies. It's is it tragic? You hate to see anyone that you love, that you have a connection with, pass away. And this is probably one of the bigger ones. In 2016, there was David Bowie. Gary Shandling hit me very hard, harder than I thought. I did not realize how much I loved the comedy of Gary Shandling, and he just seemed like a really nice individual, and that shook up a lot of people. You saw how nice a guy he was by how shook up everyone was talking about him after he died. But for Carrie Fisher, I mean, we're talking about an iconic character she played, and Star Wars is the most iconic film franchise out there. So a lot of people were in mourning. Obviously, it's natural, especially with someone that was such a part of everyone's childhood. So I don't like talking about this stuff just because people address death and deal with death in different ways. But there were some weird reactions to her death that I'll get into, and social media always makes it. I mean, social media is good in that you could come together with other people and quickly see, on Facebook or on Twitter or Instagram, and I could, if I'm sad, these other people can help console me, or they can bring out good thoughts and good memories about someone's life. That's where social media is good. But it can also be a cyclone of grief, like a vacuum of just feeling sort of just desolate and just despair. So I'll talk about that in a minute, why that's bad and some kind of weird effects from that. But Carrie Fisher, I wrote up Postcards from the Edge. She was a script doctor as well. I'm looking at this Daily News article talking about, and she was on a lot of scripts. So a script doctor is usually brought in to quickly go through an existing script and sort of punch it up, make the dialogue better, maybe not totally do a total overhaul, but just what can you do without totally destroying the script that exists, and just making it a little bit better and punch it up, as they say. They usually don't get script credit, because they usually are just paid to, give us, go through this in a week or two and what you think and bring it back to us. But she made changes to dialogue in films like Hook, Lethal Weapon 3, which I remember reading at Lethal Weapon 3, they were almost writing it as they were shooting it, so she probably helped a lot there. Sister Act, The Wedding Singer. So we're talking about some fantasy there, some action, and some comedy in there as well. But the role of Princess Leia, why I think it was so beloved to a lot of people, was we're talking go into that quote-unquote strong female character, but that was a strong female character at a time in the 70s when it wasn't common to see that. It just wasn't. Now it's almost like people are not that they're getting hit over the head with it, but now it's apparent that they're trying to write more strong female characters, but then it wasn't really a thing. It wasn't like it was more noticeable then. It stuck out more, but it was so natural, the character. It wasn't like the strong female type we want to throw in this movie. They all went together. They all fit together. Luke Skywalker, Princess Leia, and Han Solo. They all fit together. That triad. But it was still a character, Princess Leia, that had some faults. She was a little arrogant. Um, she wasn't totally always just totally strong and nothing can stop me. No, she had her bad moments. Yes, she had her moments of agency. Where she was strong. She chokes out and kills Jabba the Hutt. But there's time where she acted like a douchebag too. At the same time, she gave Han too much shit at times. So it was a real character. It wasn't a quote unquote Mary Sue. The popular, like, it was a real character that was strong, shooting up stormtroopers, but also made some mistakes and things that she shouldn't have said. Or, like I said, a real character. Was fearful of getting tortured by Darth Vader, who wouldn't be. Sees her planet Alderaan destroyed in front of her in Star Wars. So if that's your first exposure, I think that stays with you till that this is the first maybe the first woman I'm seeing in a film as a young kid that could be maybe for someone who's like 5 or 10 years old, that could be a big deal. Whether you're a boy or especially if you're a girl, that could be a big deal having that sort of role model for that strong female character that you may not have been exposed to before. I was lucky enough to have G.I. Joe, and I love the G.I. Joe cartoon for many reasons, but that was one of my biggest cartoons I watched as 4 or 5-year-old, and there were strong female characters in that show, both good and evil, whether it was the Baroness, Lady J, Scarlet, and even on Masters of the Universe, you had strong female characters, both good and evil. Tila, Evil Lynn with her weird yellow skin. But anyway, so when you're young and impressionable, these characters mean that much more. I think that's one of the reasons why you rightfully have, besides the fact that Carrie Fisher seemed like an awesome person, great sense of humor, very down to earth, very open about who she was, both the good and the bad times in her life and the bad things she's went through. I think she had one woman shows where she talked about all the bad things in her life, substance abuse and struggles with mental illness, that she was real. And I think that's part of the reason why. So it's kind of hard that people loving Princess Leia, but yes, you have Carrie Fisher. I didn't see her act in that much outside of the Star Wars movies, but I do remember her being the sort of the good wife in The Burbs with Tom Hanks that gradually is like, what the fuck are you doing? You're getting so nuts about your neighbors. What are you doing? By the way, The Burbs is such an underrated movie. Go out and watch it. Not just for her performance, but the whole movie is great. And that's what I remember at her outside of Star Wars the most. I haven't seen from when Harry Met Sally, when she was a supporting actress in that. So there was a lot of outcry on social media, and rightfully so. Let's just talk about real quick a couple of the silly things that I have to bring this up because I think, again, when you have social media, you have sort of there's the good aspects of everyone wanting to celebrate someone's life and seek solace in times of pain. But then you have sort of a whirlwind of outrage that can happen with social media, for better or for worse, and most of the time for worse. So let's talk about the Cinnabon controversy, which I wish you could make this up. So Cinnabon tweets out, rest in peace, Carrie Fisher. You'll always have the best buns in the galaxy. And the picture is of Cinnamon outline of Princess Leia, and then where her iconic bun hairstyle is from the first movie, there's a Cinnabon. It's, first of all, you can't say it's a bad taste because Cinnabon's delicious. Ha ha ha. It was probably ill-timed, but I don't think it was a malicious tweet. I really don't think it was a malicious tweet, but people flipped the fuck out on that. And the problem with social media is that the timing is so key, because had they done that tweet probably even a day or two later, I think people would have been more acceptable for it. Hell, people said that Carrie Fisher herself, who had a great sense of humor, probably would have found that really funny and endearing, because she used to say she hated that hairstyle anyway with the buns, which was absolutely ridiculous. It's been made fun of everywhere, that hairstyle from the original Star Wars movie. So people lost their fucking mind. Cinnabon had to apologize and say, of course, we weren't trying to make fun of of Carrie Fisher. Why would they? That was really silly. But the other one I want to talk about was Steve Martin's tweet, which the whole thing is unfortunate. So Steve Martin tweeted out. Let's see, where was Steve Martin's tweet? Steve Martin, who knew Carrie Fisher, was a friend of Carrie Fisher. You have to preface what I'm about to say with that, because that's a big part of this. He tweeted what he thought was a tribute to Carrie Fisher. He tweeted, when I was a young man, Carrie Fisher was the most beautiful creature I had ever seen. She turned out to be witty and bright as well. So people lost their mind at that for a few different reasons. Because they thought Steve Martin was just focusing on her physical appearance alone, and Carrie Fisher had spoken out against that in her career, and noted that others noted that Carrie Fisher wanted to be remembered for being just pretty. But what's weird about it is that this tweet is actually not remembering Carrie Fisher for her beauty. That was just the step-off point for Steve Martin to say she was witty and bright. So I think what he was trying to convey, which got lost, and of course the outrage machine made it worse and worse probably, was that here's, when I'm younger, Steve Martin 25 years ago was, what was he, 45? What is he, 70 now? And Carrie Fisher, he probably knew when she was like 20. And she was beautiful. She is beautiful. But he probably was like, holy shit, she's just stunning looking. But then he gets to know her and figures out, wow, this woman not just is stunning looking, but is intelligent and witty and bright. And that's not an improper thing to say. That's actually a huge compliment, because what he was trying to say was that this is my first impression of someone was because of her beauty was astounding to me. And then all of a sudden I figure out this person is brilliant at a young age and they're witty. Yeah, that's apparent. So I think what people have to realize is that you don't have to get on someone for being honest. Like, it's not like he was making a point of saying, this is what I only remember her for. He was saying, no, this is what I first remembered about her, which is true, because when you see someone, the first thing you see is their appearance. The first thing when you see with your eyes isn't, I see their intelligence or I see their wit. That comes later. If you have a boyfriend or girlfriend that you meet in public for the first time, you meet randomly at a party or you see on the street, when you see random people that you think are good looking, that's the first thing you see with that sense of sight is their appearance. Then if you happen to learn they're intelligent or witty or funny, that almost 99% of the time comes after you first see them. And that's all Steve Martin was trying to say. And either it came out wrong, which I personally don't think it did because I saw his point, but people just took it the wrong way and sort of ran with it. But again, it's just a shame because they knew each other. They were friends. And according to this article from the LA Times, Carrie Fisher had a one-night stand with Steve Martin one time. And we're talking about that was probably around the late 70s. So there you have it. So they had a history with each other, and Steve Martin got called on the carpet for it. The outrage police got to him. He had to delete a tweet about someone, that he wanted to. Oh, and by the way, it's not like Steve Martin, people think Steve Martin reduced Carrie Fisher to just being a pretty face. She commented about Steve Martin in an interview saying, being funny. This is, to me, funny. She made a comment saying, this interview will be the last in the series I did in my upcoming book titled Famous Men I Have Slept With So I Could Interview Them Later, due out in the fall for Simon & Schuster. So she's even making a joke about having a one-night stand with someone and forgetting about him. So again, I think Carrie Fisher seemed like a very just warm and open and funny person that wouldn't be offended by either a Cinnabon tweet or something that Steve Martin said like that. I just don't think she would. And I don't think you should be angry for her as well. It's just a waste of energy, and you should direct it elsewhere.